Hi guys, Melissa here from Rising Strong Counselling and Training Services. I'm so sorry that this video has taken me so long to upload. It has actually been one of the hardest videos I have recorded. Speaking about suicide to a community and ensuring that I cover the things that need to be covered have actually proven to be quite difficult for me. I think I've taken about 20 takes to try and get this up and going. Every time I'm unhappy with the take, because it misses things or it makes it seem less than it really is. And what I want to say is that suicide is a huge issue in the community, and me speaking about it for 5 or 10 minutes is not going to cover every single gamut of the subject of suicide. But there's a couple of things that I want to concentrate on tonight. So tonight's format is not going to be 5 quick tips. It's going to be a quick discussion about suicide ideation and then suicide as someone going to commit suicide. So let's start with suicide ideation. Suicide ideation is actually an idea or an idealization about suicide. So it's actually not a plan, it's not a running plan, it's just simply an idea that's popped into someone's head. An idea is something very different than a planned response. So for instance, when I was younger, I think I said many times, my mum and dad would be so much better off without me. Now that was actually just an idea. It was never something that I had planned. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have the means to do it. I didn't even think anything further other than saying my mum and dad would be better off without me. I'm using that as an example because it was my experience as a child, and it's easy for me to bring you my experience so you can understand that I'm just as human as the next person. And suicide ideation is very common. There are many people in our community that actually idealize suicide. They do. And it's just one of those things. Mental health issues in our community are very rife, and people are very frustrated and worn down and busy, and children don't get enough time, there's not enough money, there's not enough experiences in life. People are very stressed and strained. So sometimes suicide ideation is one of the ways that they are able to release. I wish I wasn't here anymore. My family would be better off without me. Oh, if I wouldn't have spent that $50, life would have been better. Woe is me. I think I'm going to go and off myself. I'm never going to do that again, though. Never. So ideas about suicide can sometimes come up in conversation just as a quick thought, just like that. We don't mean them. We have no thoughts, we have no plans, we haven't sat down for hours thinking about it. It's just a blow off steam sort of thing. And I don't mean it as in and not validate it the way that it needs to be. But sometimes an idea comes and goes just as quickly, and that's okay. So suicide can be an idea and no more than that. It can be explored for a second in someone's mind. It might be even explored 2 or 3 times in someone's mind. But still, it doesn't mean that it's a risk. Sometimes people think about suicide a lot. So sometimes ideation can turn into an actual plan. And when someone plans a suicide or has a plan, that's when red flags go for me. So if someone ever came to me and said to me, Melissa, I have a plan to commit suicide, that's when things for me would start to escalate. Even in the community, if I was not a mental health clinician and someone said to me, I have a plan to hurt myself, that's when I would start putting some safety measures in place. Now, I'm not saying that someone in the community can just go and put a whole heap of safety measures in place. That's not what I'm saying to you. But what I want you to understand is there's ways that you can help people keep safe without having to be a mental health care professional. So, for instance, if you know of someone that's actually said to you that they have a plan, they have a time, they have a way, they have a space, they've planned some element of actually working out how they're going to commit suicide, then that's the step for me where it takes it from an idea to an actual event. Because we know that everyone can have ideas about anything in the whole wide world, but until we start planning those things, they're never really going to turn into events anyhow. So when we're talking about someone planning the event of suicide, that's when we need to say that we need to help keep that person safe, because they're no longer able to keep themselves safe anymore. So suicide at this point is a real risk. It means that they are able to hurt themselves, and they have a way and a means of hurting themselves. So the best thing that we can do is eliminate a few things. The first thing is eliminate them being alone. We eliminate them being alone, it means that we're taking away the means straight away. So by staying with them until we actually seek help for them is probably the best thing that we can do. If someone talks to you about a plan of suicide and it's in the evening, the best thing that we can do as a friend, supporter, a family member, whoever we are to that person, is to make some phone calls. The first phone call that I would make, generally, even if I wasn't a mental health clinician, I would actually say the first phone call that I would make if someone had a plan for suicide would be to the crisis assessment team, otherwise known as the CAT team. The CAT team, there's a CAT team in everyone's area in Australia. So if you search CAT team in your area, it will come up with the nearest CAT team to you. The crisis assessment team is open 24 hours a day. If you ring and you ask for the assessment team will take a general rundown of what's going on, and then they'll actually assess the person as soon as they can. It's important at this stage that you establish a safety plan with the person that is talking about suicide. If you are not able to remember the CAT team, the next thing that I would think about would be taking someone to an emergency department if it's in the evening. Emergency departments are equipped to refer straight away or even put someone in hospital to keep them safe. It's important that safety is first. We need to make sure that they cannot do what they're planning to do. And this is out of love and respect for humans in general, or even just the person that we love. If it's during the day and we have access to many different numbers during the day, it is important to remember that we may have access to their GP, their mental health clinician, if they already have a mental health care plan, they're already seeing a psychologist, if they're already on antidepressants or some other medication that has been prescribed to them because they're already predisposed to these thoughts. So perhaps a GP would be a point of call for you, or the psychologist or psychiatrist that's dealing with them, or their counsellor. It's really important that we put all of these stops in place so someone else knows and shares the burden that this person is thinking about suicide. So if it is after hours, the CAT team, which is the crisis assessment team, the police, or our emergency department at our local hospital, all of those will be 24 hours. The police can attend the home. You can take the person to the emergency department, or the crisis assessment team can make an assessment over the phone and work out what needs to happen. During the day, you have your GP, the mental health care clinician, you still have the CAT team, you still have emergency, you still have police, but you have more options during the day. The other things that are available are the suicide helpline and lifeline. Those numbers are also handy to keep on your fridge if you do have someone that has mental health care issues, or people who have severe suicide ideation. I don't know whether that's, talking about severe suicide ideation would then mean suicide planning. So I think it's a very fine balance and a very grey area where someone goes from suicide ideation to actually the plan of suicide. It is a very grey area, and there's no wrong or right. I guess the thing here is if you're worried, you need to take precautions, because nothing worse would be for you to walk out of a home and leave someone in a crisis and then doing something to hurt themselves, which could hurt them to a point where they're not able to be saved, and then therefore all that guilt that you have to hold on your shoulders for that. It is important, guys, that if ever we're not sure about what to do, that we contact someone like the police or the ambulance, a medical team or something like that are able to guide us. You guys are not meant to be professionals. So it's important that when you listen to this is only a little bit of a guideline. It's to give you some information. A little bit of information can sometimes help guide you in times of crisis. So if I can just recap, guys, suicide ideation is just the ideas of suicide. Someone with suicide ideation that speaks over and over and over about suicide ideas can sometimes make suicide ideation into a plan. So it's really important just to keep tabs on that. If someone does have a plan, we want to make sure that they're safe. We remove the risk, we remove them being alone, and then we get in contact with the people that we can to make sure that they can be assessed, can be cared for, and we can move ahead knowing that there's no risk to their life. So guys, please take care of yourselves out there. I definitely haven't covered all the points. This is not one of those videos where you can go, I know everything about suicide right now. It's just a quick 5-10 minute video on just some finer points about suicide ideation versus suicide, and perhaps a way of moving towards a safety plan if you're ever put in the situation where you have someone that you love or care for in front of you that is saying that they have a plan. Take care of yourselves, guys. Remember, mental health and suicide is not something to be taken lightly. It is a very serious subject. The other thing I can say is please don't judge. We can never know how another man feels without walking in their shoes, and it's actually not possible to walk in another person's shoes. So all I can say is be careful, err on the side of caution, and always have a plan of attack if you're met with some of these challenges of suicide versus suicide ideation. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.